Watch this video to see how you might create cases or gather all responses to each interview prompt by preparing your transcripts with speaker names or heading styles. It's important to remember that many projects do not require this type of sorting of the data. If you're still uncertain whether either type of autocoding is relevant to your project, watch this video to see what autocoding can do. You may have noticed that the interviews in your sample data for this course have been formatted quite consistently. When transcribed in Microsoft Word, each time the interviewer begins a new line of questioning, a heading style has been applied with a shortened version of the question in heading style 1. You can see this if we open Barbara's interview and go to Click to Edit. I can see the style change to normal. Now, if I click a question, I can see the style change to heading style 1. These question heading styles are worded identically across all of the interviews I have open here in detailed view. Every time someone speaks in the interview, the speaker names have been entered using exactly the same name. In these documents, they have also been formatted using heading styles, but this is not necessary for grouping data from individuals into cases. You might prepare your interviews this way, using a consistent style across all of your interviews, if you'd like to be able to gather your data for particular speakers or for particular major sections of the interview. While it is possible to work with heading styles in NVivo, it will be most efficient for you or your transcriber to do this work at the time of preparing your transcripts. I'd first like to autocode some of these transcripts by speaker. I begin by selecting the files I would like to autocode in list view. I'm going to choose the interviews with 2 people, Maria and Daniel, Mary and James, Richard and Patricia. Once I've selected them, I can right-click to choose Autocode. The Autocode wizard opens to step 1 and displays all of the autocoding options available. I would like to autocode using speaker name, so I select that option and click Next. In step 2, I need to enter the speaker names that I use in the interviews. I can preview each one to make sure I get the names correct. Each name is then typed on a separate row. Then I click Next. The data from each speaker will be grouped together into a case for that person, so in step 3 I can choose whether to create a new classification for the cases that are being created or whether to assign them to an existing classification. For this example, I'm going to choose a new classification and call it Interviewees. I will then need to decide where I'd like these cases to be stored. The default option is the Cases folder, so I'm going to leave it as it is and click Finish. Note, if cases have already been created in the Cases folder for the speakers, then, as long as the speaker names in the interviews are exactly the same as the names of the existing cases, the data for the interviews will be merged into the existing cases. To check my work, I'll click on the Cases folder in the Cases area of Navigation view. I can see here that a case has been created or updated for each speaker. Most have coding from a single source. There is one with more than one source who is a facilitator who conducted more than one interview. If I double-click a node, I can see that it only includes the content of the interview from that speaker. Next, I go to the Case Classifications folder and check the Case Classification sheet to see whether any attribute values need to be assigned or updated for the new or updated cases. Creating cases this way is especially helpful for focus group discussions or interviews with dyads. For individual interviews, it is typically not necessary to separate the interviewer and the respondent's speech, unless you are particularly interested in the quantitative results of your lexical queries. Now let's autocode all the interviews in the document format to create nodes for the questions in the interviews. Again, I begin by right-clicking the sources and selecting Autocode. This time in step 1, I'll choose Paragraph Styles and click Next. I'm selecting Heading 1 and clicking the arrows next to the available paragraph styles to move Heading 1 to selected paragraph styles. I'll now click Next. I'll create a new folder and call it Interview Questions. This will hold these new nodes. Now I can click Finish. Let's go to view these nodes. Each is coding from multiple sources, and I can see that not all questions were included in all interviews. I can open one of these to see all the responses to that particular question. We can also learn an important lesson from a problem that has occurred here. Question 6 is appearing twice. If we look closely, we can see this is because there is a slightly different wording of the question. It's occurring in just one file. I can see this by looking at the Files column. To correct the problem now, I can simply merge one node into another, but you can see that it is important to take care as you create your headings. Each minor typographical error will require a node merge. This can become quite tedious with a large number of errors. Note that these question nodes serve a very different purpose from our cases. This node might be a place where I could begin coding, immersing myself in a particular interview question rather than a particular interview. I will be able to review all the answers to a particular question to get a sense for the type of responses there are to that question, and then I can code on in the particular node for different types of responses. Will you need autocoding in your project?